Hey there, folks. Greg Shepard here, S&A Financial Services. Got another video regarding TIAA. Two strategies I want you to think about. I actually had this is piggybacking off the last video I did. If you didn't catch it, go watch it. Okay, do yourself a favor. Some of my clients watched it, which is great, and then they reached out to me and said, "Hey, why don't you talk about you being me? Why don't you talk about some of the strategies that we implemented that's kind of related to that last video?" And this is them talking, my clients, because they said there's folks out there that they know of that could benefit from what we did. So, with that being said, here we go. Enjoy. Okay, hang with me here. And this isn't going to apply to everybody out there. Okay, I get that. So let's maybe a version of this, excuse me, can apply to your situation. A lot of folks out there. So, before I forget, again, name is Greg Shepard. I do specialize in helping folks all over the country just makes sense of these oftentimes confusing TIAA accounts. If you have any questions over this video or any other videos, maybe that last one that you should go watch, contact me. My information should be below. All right, so I'm going to get into two strategies. One is probably more apropos for a lot of you folks out there. So the first one may not apply to a lot of you out there, but regardless, okay, let's get into it. So when my clients reach out to me, piggybacking off the last video, we discussed the strategy that we did that pertains to having two contracts. A lot of you will have a mandatory and supplemental. Okay. If you don't have a supplemental, this won't apply to you. Okay. So you'll have a lot of institutions. I mean, some I can think of, five off the top of my head, have different investment options inside the mandatory and in the supplemental. So what you do is a lot of times, not all the time actually, the TIAA Traditional in the mandatory account is going to afford you a higher rate for new deposits going in. Okay, so let's start there. Then we think about how we want to utilize TIAA Traditional for either purposes of lifetime income down the road or just to shelter volatility in the markets. And then we have an exit strategy for those illiquid contracts. Okay, that's mandatory, illiquid. Okay. So we utilize that mandatory account for purposes of traditional to get that higher rate. I mean, we're talking about, what's the RC contract, 5.5%, excuse me, percent right now, whereas liquid contracts are going to be below 5. So there's a pretty big distinction between the two. Utilize the mandatory accounts, i.e., illiquid traditional, for that purpose. Traditional. I'm just making these numbers up. Maybe a lot of the percent of the mandatory account is in traditional, and a high percentage of the supplemental account is in equities. Therefore, both contracts are going to do that. Is maybe, I don't know, a 60-40 split, 60% equities, 40% traditional, but all the mandatory account is in traditional. Something like that. You get what I'm saying here? So utilize both accounts for that purpose. Now, what you might run into a lot of times is that the mandatory account will have better investment options on the equity side than the supplemental. Okay. And that's because everybody's in the mandatory account. Not everybody's in the supplemental account. So I tell you what, this is maybe a different video. Be your own advocate, meaning that bring this to the higher ups. Okay. Hey, why doesn't my supplemental account have 5 equity choices and the mandatory has 18, which that's literally a plan I just ran into. Okay. What's going on there? Okay. Feed me information as to why that's a fiduciary good idea. All right. This is you as the employee talking. Okay. Tread lightly, but you get my drift. Okay. What's the second one? Okay. The second strategy is just how do I word this? When you go into your TIAA account and you go to manage the investments, meaning you're trying to reallocate, okay? There's a tab for some of your institutions that says something to the effect where you can move money in between contracts. Prime example, RA and RC contract. This is plan specific, so be cognizant of that fact. You can move money from the RA to the RC. Why would we do this? Okay, the RA is more of an archaic contract. You may have seen where your RAs have flipped to an RC. So you'll have some money still in those legacy RA contracts sitting in equities. Okay, so maybe we want to up the exposure to traditional for whatever reason. What we can do is look to take money from the RA rather than putting money in traditional inside the RA contract. Let's use that feature where we can toggle money from the RA contract. You can do this online. okay? Go to the RC contract, and a lot of times you can go directly into traditional, or maybe sit it somewhere else for a little bit and then go into traditional. Again, why would you do this? New deposits on the RA contract for traditional, 1/4 point less than new deposits going into traditional on the RC contract. There's your answer. Okay, I know it's not a lot, 1/4 point, but okay, it's essentially free money, right? You're boosting that rate by 1/4 point by literally taking 5 minutes of your time and toggling money in this scenario from the RA to RC. Okay, this can be done institution specific. Okay, again, you can do it online. It gets a little cumbersome, but yes, you can do it. Sum it up. First one, investment choices. Okay, maybe utilize one contract over the other for purposes of traditional and the other one for purposes of equity exposure. If you don't have good equity choices, different video topic, tell somebody. I mean, that's just not right or appropriate in my eyes. By the way, none of this is investment advice. I don't want someone coming after me for some legal reasons. None of this is investment advice. I don't know your situation. Okay, be your own advocate. Reach out to Tia. Reach out to me, and so we can get squared away. That second deal is look to move money from various contracts to improve your TIAA traditional standing. Okay, there we go. I did you all a service by piggybacking off the last video. My clients are to thank for that. All right, folks. Greg Shepard here, S&A Financial Services. Hey, go and have a good one. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.